watching the local news yesterday. What I saw happen on that motorcade just gave me hope. I mean, it's Negroes and Mexicans by the tens of thousands just sleeping in front of his car, tearing at his clothes, ripping at his shoes. They loved him. Now that Dr. King is gone, no one left but Bobby. No one.
How did it seem to you when the senator came through Prestonburg?
Oh, it's one of the greatest days we've ever had in this town. Especially the young people, they're all crazy about him.
You feel any differently after seeing him?
I feel a little prouder of being an American.
Watching a movie like Bobby, it's almost painful to think of what could have been. He was before my time, and since he was assassinated back in 1968, you'd have to be around 39 years old to have even been alive when he was running for president. Next year would be 40 years since his assassination. You'd have to be around 50 years old to have any first-hand memories of Bobby Kennedy, and around 60 years old to have any first-hand memories of President Kennedy. While no one is perfect and we all have our flaws, Bobby did have something special. Even though he's before my time, I've spoken to many people who were around back in the day with first-hand memories of the man and the times that were the 60s. Bobby was not just a man for most people. He was a symbol. He was a symbol for hope, and he was a symbol for unity. He was the last of the great leaders of the 60s. And I'll never forget hearing a quote from an African-American lady in an interview just before Bobby's assassination. She said, "After we lost Dr. Martin Luther King, we still have hope. We still have Bobby." No more than 2 months later, he was gunned down, just like his brother, and just like Dr. Martin Luther King. Even though some people may not like him or the Kennedy family for one reason or another, it is undeniable that he was, for the masses, a symbol of hope. A symbol of hope for our country, a symbol of hope for the poor, and a symbol of hope for race relations. Listening to him almost 40 years after his death, his message is still as powerful and sincere as it was when he first delivered it. What this movie did very successfully was bring back the feel of the 1960s and the turmoil that surrounded them. The cast was as good as any cast in any movie. You will not find a better cast of actors in any movie outside of maybe JFK. Ironically, another movie about the Kennedy family. This film goes beyond just a movie. This was capturing a day that will go down as one of the darkest in the 200 plus years of our country's history. Not because a man was assassinated, but because the faith of the people was lost that day. Don't believe me? Look at race relations today. Look at poverty today. Look at the wars of today. These were all Bobby's platforms. This was what he was determined to address in his terms as president. Here's a look at one of the most memorable scenes of the movie Bobby.
You ain't working the double because Whitey's afraid of your black ass, man. They're afraid you're gonna go all Huey Newton on them, all violent. See, they ain't afraid of us yet, Jose. Not yet, man, but one day they will be, man. We're gonna get the respect that we deserve. We're gonna take back California, take back our land, man.
I want you to park that anger in my kitchen, young man.
I want you to get your hand off my shoulder, Negro.
All right, keep it up. See, the first few times I tried to make this dessert, couldn't get it right. Too much sugar one time, not enough sugar the next time, couldn't find the balance. I realized I was forcing it. Trying to make it taste like my mama's or her mama's. Mine didn't have any poetry, didn't have any light. And then I realized I was trying to force it to taste like my mother's, taste like her mother's. See, it had to be Edward's creation. It had to come from me. And you, Miguel, you've got shit to offer. You've got no poetry, you've got no light. You've got no one looking at you and saying, damn, look at that Miguel. I want some of what he's got. All you got is your anger.
There is a lot of wisdom in this movie, both from Bobby's own words as well as from some of the characters. I was really impressed with the way this movie went from archive footage to new footage to get the feel that they were really there that day. It's only been 40 years, and look at the difference of the way people treat each other. Everything's sensationalized. People who were in positions that used to carry themselves with dignity have become nothing more than name callers and mudslingers. The networks have turned the news into tabloids. The president flips the camera off. We all know the president's not a perfect man, but we'd like to think that he would carry himself in a presidential fashion, at least in the public's eye. I can't imagine any of the presidents from the 70s or before carrying themselves in such a way. Some of this deterioration has nothing to do with the fact that he was assassinated. But some things may not be this way had he not been gunned down. There have been many dark days people experienced in the last 100 years, but the assassination of Bobby Kennedy was something I believe this country never fully recovered from. I think that many people lost hope. How many leaders can you lose before the spirits of the masses begin to waver? We lost 3 leaders in the 60s. You can't just replace them. Some men leave some pretty big shoes to fill, and others are never filled. I spent some time listening to speeches from other presidents and presidential candidates from the 70s on, and I didn't hear any speeches with the sincerity that Bobby spoke with. Now presidential candidates and presidents themselves speak only in front of hand-picked crowds with hand-picked questions, so that no real issues will ever be addressed or the candidates will never be questioned into a corner. I'm just waiting for the day they don't even bother pretending to listen to our questions, concerns, or demands. Elected officials are supposed to represent the people that elected them. Hearing Kennedy's speeches, to me, just shows me the difference between the people that sincerely want to improve the country we live in and the people that are just going through the motions. I strongly recommend seeing this movie for anyone who's forgotten what For the People means. Today it's hard to remember when people stood for something and they were accountable for anything. Today you can never get a straight answer. No one is ever accountable for anything. And we have a new Vietnam all over again. This time it's a war on terror and the invasion of Iraq. We've been in one conflict or another for the past 40 to 50 years. Like the Kennedys or hate them, they were against the wars and they wanted to take care of our people at home and get out of the wars abroad. We have been at war almost ever since the early 60s in one form or another. Most of the time, they were just called conflicts. This film is a powerful reminder of how people used to really believe in a leader, and we're still waiting for the next great one to come along.
What I think is quite clear is that we can work together in the last analysis, and that what has been going on within the United States over the period of the last 3 years, the divisions, the violence, the disenchantment with our society, the divisions whether it's between blacks and whites, between the poor and the more affluent, or between age groups or on the war in Vietnam, that we can start to work together. We are a great country, a selfless country, and a compassionate country. And I intend to make that my basis for running in over the period of time. So, my thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there. Our lives on this planet are too short. The work to be done is too great to let this spirit flourish any longer in this land of ours. Of course, we cannot banish it with a program, nor with a resolution. But we can perhaps remember, if only for a time, that those who live with us are our brothers, that they share with us the same short moment of life, that they seek, as do we, nothing but the chance to live out their lives in purpose and in happiness, winning what satisfaction and fulfillment that they can. Surely this bond of common fate surely this bond of common goals can begin to teach us something. Surely we can learn at the least to look around at those of us, of our fellow men. And surely we can begin to work a little harder to bind up the wounds among us and to become in our hearts brothers and countrymen once again.